welcome back. I'm Morgan, and today we're going to be doing a book review for the new Mary Kay Andrews book, The Homewreckers, that comes out on May 3rd. I believe that's right without looking at some notes. And I was able to get an advanced reader copy to be able to review it for you guys. And we will have some spoilers towards the end of the video, so I'll make sure to put the time code here so that you can stop the video if you don't want to get into spoiler time. I'm going to sit it behind me instead of trying to hold it probably the whole time. This way it's still visible. Our main character in this book is Hattie Kavanaugh, who works for Kavanaugh & Sons Construction, maybe? They don't do new construction, they do home rehabs, renovations, additions. She has worked for them for the past 15, sounds too long, but since she was a teenager, and married their son. Unfortunately, he died about 7 years before this book started, and she's still trying to move on kind of with her life. The book introduces her, though, as she is crawling underneath an old house after the plumber told them that the pipes were completely rusted out and had to be redone. And she just wanted to look for herself, which pissed off the plumber. This house that she has bought and rehabbed, though, is kind of a price stretcher. Now, with the plumbing having to be redone and a lot of the other issues that they'd found in the house, apparently she had spent more money on it and, you know, it's kind of stretching her thin to be able to do this whole rehab. But she has even named this house. She fell in love with this house and wanting to restore it, because that's what Hattie likes to do. She likes to find old historic-y type houses and restore them to greatness. And there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so she's kind of upsetly desperate that the whole plumbing situation does not have to be redone. Now, entering our second character, Mercutio Lopez, but everybody calls him Mo, so that's cool. We can just say Mo. Mo is an executive producer idea guy for the home renovation type channel HPTV, who was out in Savannah because he had just spoken at one of the colleges nearby on working in the film industry, TV production type of classwork. And he's bicycling around Savannah, though, looking at all the historic old homes and trying to come up with another idea to be able to pitch to the network, because his last show has just gone off the air, and so he's trying to come up with a good idea. And he is passing this house, not exactly on accident. Possibly he overheard Hattie and her father-in-law having a discussion over coffee about how bad an idea buying Gertrude was. So he sees Hattie and the plumber having words, and her, you know, disappearing. He didn't know exactly, I think she was under the house, but he goes up to the front door and knocks and nobody says anything, so for some reason he lets himself in, thinking that they're inside working, I suppose. And the man literally falls on top of her as he falls through the busted down kitchen flooring, because it was just completely rotted out. So he falls down through the kitchen floor right on top of where Hattie was. It was a very unfortunate first meeting for them two. But, you know, after talking to Hattie and her best friend Cass about the house and what they do, he does start to develop this idea and this feeling about Savannah. And so he comes up with this whole pitch that he sends to the network about a show called Saving Savannah, where Hattie and her crew rehab old Savannah houses to, you know, restore them to their grandeur. The network does love the show idea, obviously, but of course they want to change it. They want it to be slightly more scripted, to where there's an on-screen romance. Hattie reluctantly, you know, has agreed to the show while it was still Saving Savannah and signed a contract. So now, even with the show's new direction, she's kind of like having to go along with it, especially since she was able to buy a house at a sealed auction bid in a little community that's near Savannah. Unfortunately, the previous owners are not very happy with this. Soon there's more at stake than bad pipes and dry rot. During the demolition, evidence comes to light that points to the mysterious disappearance of a young wife and mother years before. With the burned-out detective investigating the case, an arsonist on the loose, two men playing with her emotions, and layers upon layers of vintage wallpaper causing havoc, it's a question of who will flip, who will flop, and if Hattie will ever get her happily ever after. Part of that was a bit of a stretch. Actually, two things. I guess Detective Mac was slightly burned out. He had been an Atlanta police detective, and when he retired from the Atlanta force, he moved out to the Tybee Island, which is a little community off Savannah, to be a police person there in his retirement after his wife passed shortly after they moved there, and he's like, I can't just sit at home anymore. So I wouldn't say he's burned out, really. He was just... Our murder mystery, though, is when this evidence is found in the house, and how the case progresses from there is all very centered around the house and the project going on there. It like really shakes up what they call a small town. I don't think Savannah's that small of a town, though, so I'm not sure why it's called a small town. Now, what else can we say about the book that's not a spoiler? One of the things I really liked about the book was Hattie and Cass's relationship, their friendship. It's been, they've been friends since high school, and even through the trial of this house, which Cass told her, this house has bad vibes. It gives off the bad juju. How they worked through, their disagreement about the house with the murder investigation and everything, how it was bringing up things from high school. Like, the missing woman was their high school English teacher, and the emotions of, when she first disappeared, and bad memories coming up. Yes, I loved the way their friendship was portrayed through the whole book. How they stayed close and opened up to each other, and it was just... the best part of the book, possibly, was the heartwarming friendship between Hattie and Cass and her dog. He was the best boy. No, nothing happened to the dog. I'm not saying it as was because something happened to the dog. Nothing happens to the dog. Okay, so I guess spoilery things. Yeah. When they changed the show from Saving Savannah to Homewreckers, and the network pushed to have this romancy angle thrown in, they brought in this hot LA designer who was supposed to, bring the spiciness, and like Mo was like, well, you don't think Hattie's going to go for this idea, do you? Because she's actually a real person. She's not someone who's been in the entertainment industry or wants, that. She's not going to go for this. And the network executives, oh, he's hot and he's charming. Of course she's going to go for him. Really? Eventually wear, Hattie down from her just dislike of him to where she kind of thinks he's okay. She does agree to go to dinner with him. And then he keeps, trying to pursue her or whatever. And he ends up getting her kind of drunk after they were sanding the hardwood floors of the house. And trying to be all sweet because the Dirty Dancing song had come on. And he's like, come on, let's do the jump and everything. He's like, I love this movie. I saw it in theaters. And then got the DVD. And I'm thinking to myself, he can't be old enough to have seen it in theaters. But he does admit that he's actually 46 and just, uses Botox and collagen fillers and whatnots. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense, maybe. But they do the lift thing and it fails horribly. He drops her and they fall. But then they are kind of kissing because she's drunk and everything. When Mo comes back in because he had left something there. So he came in and he storms in really because he hears a scream. So he thinks something's happening and finds them, and Trey just leaves. He's like, well, fine, Mr. Party Killer. And he leaves her there, not even caring, that she's possibly too drunk to drive herself home. He just tells her the next day, well, you're a big girl. I knew you could take care of yourself. Really, jerkface? The next day, they find out, too, that he had actually told some of the electricians to wire up lights into the ceiling without junction boxes, and they saw scorch marks on the wood where it could have just caused fires and ruined Kavanaugh and Son's reputation in the town where they actually work, where as Trey would be leaving and it's not his name on the line, or, Hattie's the one that bought the house and would have to deal with all of the repercussions if something happened to the house. So all around, he's just not really the best person. She does get a little bit over being so upset with him though, and she sees that he is, he's not doing it the right way, but he is trying to make the house look nice. And, she has to come to Jesus with him about, you can't do shoddy work, especially when it's not your name that's going to be associated with this project. The drama with the house though started from the time Hattie bought it at the courthouse. It was a sealed auction bid because the house had been condemned by the city for overgrowth and falling in roof and nobody taking care of the property, because the old family who had owned it, it was split between like 3 cousins, and after Hurricane Irma and the roof was demolished, they found out that the 90-year-old cousin hadn't been paying the insurance, and so nobody wanted to pay to have everything replaced. And then they stopped paying property taxes, and thus the city took it. But they accused Hattie of stealing the house out from under them and a whole bunch of crap. And pretty much the youngest member, who was just a little bit older than her, tried to pay her off right there after she bought the house, tried to buy it from her for like a little bit more than she bought it for. And then, was just yelling at her and all this crap. Ugh, drama. Then, a few days into the project, where they were demolishing the kitchen walls, or the mudroomish walls, and apparently, I've never heard of this, but apparently in old houses in the 20s, they used to have like razor slots in the wall, where you would put razor blades from, your razor after you shaved and it went dull. You would put your razor blades in the slot, and it would just be between the studs of the house. They made it sound like that was a very common occurrence in old houses. And I was like, whoa, never heard of that before. Okay. But when demolishing that part of the wall, besides razor blades, they also found a woman's wallet. And when they opened it up, it belonged to Lanier Rayner? I want to say Rayner. And that had been Hattie and Cass's English teacher when they were a sophomore in high school, who disappeared 17 years ago. Nobody really knew what happened to her, if she'd run off with somebody or anything. After finding the wallet, they call the cops, and that is where we meet Detective Makovich. I can't say his name. And yeah, it's a joke in the book where every time he introduces himself, he's like, nobody can really pronounce my name. Why would you do that then? Why would you write a character who nobody can say the name? So you call him Detective Mac. And he is our former Atlanta PD officer who is now a Tybee police detective cop. And he takes the billfold and tries to contact her old husband and just pretty much starts looking into the case again, since this is the first time there's been information in forever. And it's kind of announced to the media that maybe, they found this, they might want to reopen the investigation. And then that night that Hattie and Trey go out to dinner, in the brief period of like 2 hours that she's gone from the house, when he brings her back to pick up her truck, there's a fire, whether trying to just scare them away or burn the house down. You never really find out what the goal with that was. But that really pushes things along, like, okay, something is happening here at this house. Because of the dumpster fire, literally, they had to redo the whole back of the house because it did get smoke stained and sooted, and in the trying to put out the fire, the whole mudroom and kitchen were flooded by the fire trucks. And so all of that and the work that had already been done there has to be restarted, and I think they lose the kitchen cabinets that they had been wanting to save, so that's like more money that Hattie's having to spend. So she's starting to freak out here a little bit, and also wondering why somebody's trying to sabotage their house. They have been visited by the code enforcement officer 2 times, I think, at this point. Or no, the next day he comes again. And he shows her a picture of the dumpster and says she was in violation for not having it covered. And he's like, it was just sent to me last night. And she's like, well, last night somebody set fire to it, so who sent you this picture? He's a little weasel though, and he doesn't say anything, and he just gives her her fine ticket. But in having to get a new dumpster because of the other one, they have, a trailer coming in to pick up the old dumpster, and when it's trying to back up to get it, it all of a sudden comes over an old septic tank cover, and it just completely collapses in. And yeah, once they finally start to wrench it back up, though, with the owner of the truck company, they get it back up and out, and they're looking down into the hole, and they're like, oh my God, there's a body. And so now we have even more evidence and things going on. And here's like the weirdest thing. So for some reason, Detective Mac, as he's uncovering things slightly, and he talks to Lanier's family, and he's doing some slight research, and with the body coming out, and before really it's identified, he's talking to Hattie, saying yes, it probably is her, and telling her, the information that he's uncovered so far. And Hattie, in turn, has also been like digging into like what was happening that year. But pretty much he tells Hattie all this information about what he's uncovering, and every time he goes to talk to somebody and what's happening. Okay, so an ongoing investigation, the police will not just give out information to any random person, even if it's the person who found the body, technically. No. And it's played up like, oh, because, word always gets around in small towns, kind of. She actively is still searching, tells other people the details of what's been found out already. More bad. This is not what happens. How it mentions, though, about, two men playing with her emotions, and how, the true love thing wrapped up. The Trey, of course, was playing on her emotions the whole time, because he was trying to play it up for the camera, start this relationship and everything for the camera, for the ratings, for the media. But the other one wasn't. He was just trying to be out of it. He was starting to develop feelings for her, of course, and he respected her and like loved everything she was trying to do for this house and how much effort she was giving, and resented, the fact that the network was trying to push Trey on her. But he was never really giving off any vibes until that one night when Trey left her drunk at the house and he had to take her home. And I mean, he kind of said something that she barely remembered, but up until that point, he had never been anything more than just like friendly towards her, not trying to, confuse her, not trying to show her any, like the way he was feeling. So that part from the back of the book was just weird. I mean, so the last quarter of the book, maybe she was clued in to, that he kind of felt something for her. And then she, of course, is like, oh, well, he's going to leave and then he won't be here. I did not even hear it turn off this time either, guys. So now I'm trying to think of what I said and what I didn't say. Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't think I had talked about Detective Mac yet. Like, it does say he's like a burnout cop, but I don't think that was exactly the case. He and his wife had moved to this smaller town life from Atlanta, but after, they retired from, but when she passed, he couldn't just sit around anymore, so he went back to work. He seems like a very competent detective, and just Hattie keeps, uncovering evidence at every turn, though, and even, investigating, sleuthing herself. So I get she's our main character, though we do see through Detective Mac's point of view a few times, but it just felt wrong, kind of, that she was kind of the one that solved more of the case than he did. I didn't like how that played out very much at all, or how much information he was giving out to her. Okay, I think I thought of the thing that I said in the other one that I didn't get to say in this new batteried one. I like the way Hattie learned to grow kind of from the house relationship, going through all the drama with the house, and she was able to just start to like live her life again. she really, took to heart, just because you've had loss, don't stop living. And she had when her husband died. They'd had this house that they'd bought together and they were fixing up. And when he died, she just stopped. She couldn't handle, working on it anymore without him. But by the end of her house rehab and when she is getting this bad juju house finally sold, she starts to actually work on her own house. She gets her countertops installed. She is tiling the backsplash in the kitchen with some leftover kind of blue-green sea foamy color tiles that they had put in the Tybee Island house, because she says they're like just beautiful. They look like, ocean water. So she's tiling, using the leftovers to tile up her kitchen, but, that's just a big step that she is finally working on this for herself again. Overall, I gave the book 3.25 stars. I think, though, if you're looking for something that's slightly a fluff read, but that is kind of fun and does have characters with personality and character and, a good sense of what's right and wrong, then you might enjoy this book. Hattie was a very good character, and I loved her friendship and the way she stayed true to what she wanted done with this house that she invested so much. No matter what the network said, she worked around it. And she persevered. Homewreckers should be available everywhere on May 3rd. So by the time you are seeing this video, it should be able to be picked up. And if you are enjoying my little reviews or my bookish unboxings or my attempts at vlogging, please consider hitting that subscribe button and clicking the bell so you'll be notified every time I post a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you will have a lovely rest of your day. Bye guys.